Hi, Keller Williams. I'm so glad you're here with us today. We have a real treat in store for you. I am here with Dana Gentry and Linda McKissick, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about leverage. So, Linda, I'm going to introduce you first. You're a 7th level agent, owner of multiple market centers, a regional OP, and last but not least, our #1 profit share earner.
Which I'm very thankful for right now. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then Dana, you are our regional director of growth for the Ohio Valley region. You own, or you're an OP in multiple market centers. You're also an interim TL and an agent. So you're both wearing just a few hats. What else do you want the people to know about yourselves?
Well, I think we both have lived through a shift, right, Dana?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
so just a few things
we're
to
both
offer.
leaders and have lived through a shift, and we're up for the challenge.
Nice. Well, let's dig in. One of the things that we talked about, leverage means a lot of stuff, right? We talked about the many meanings. In the KW world, we tend to think about people, but when we start talking about a shift, the word leverage starts to have a lot of power, right? What does the word leverage mean to both of you?
Go ahead, Linda. Okay. Yeah, to me, I was just going back and thinking about learning from John Maxwell a long time ago that leverage is just the ability to utilize resources that you have. So tools, thoughts, information, ideas, your brand, your reputation, just taking what you've learned and getting it to a higher intensity so that you can get a greater return.
Yeah, I would say something very similar. Anything you can expand your capacity to make your reach even greater and to reach the goals that you have.
So leveraging education is what I heard very clearly out of both of you. And I think that couldn't be more timely, right? That's what we're doing here this week. It's all about educational efforts and supporting each other and coming together as a KW family to share what we've learned throughout the years. So what are you dedicated to learning right now?
For me, I'm looking at my industry leaders that might be connected in the communities to see if there's any information that might be coming down the pipeline that might be, important for my agents to know or for me to know first that's happening, locally. And then also any Keller Williams University classes that we've already created when we've been in similar situations to this. I know this one's unprecedented compared to anything else, but there are a lot of similarities. So what classes have we kind of just glazed over in the past that now the information is more important than ever? So KW classes like Shift and, looking at our financials, anything that we can go back and say, really, this information is even more relevant today than we maybe have made it in the past.
I love that. Dana?
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Everything Linda said. And, I just think of something that Gary's always taught us, which is the market share that you lose in a shift, you don't normally get back, but the market share that you gain in a shift, you usually keep it forever. And so when I think of that and, learning is just, Linda and I are learning junkies. We say all the time. I mean, it's hard. Like we are almost so much that we have to say, okay, wait a minute. We got to prioritize what we actually are going to go to and soak in this week. And so, for me, I think right now, command, if our agents need to take this time to really dive in and focus on command at a super high level. For leadership, the business consultations, that just over and over and over learning those. And then as an agent, my team right now, we're just anything we can continue to learn to stay top of mind with our people and bring them value. That's what we're learning right now.
In the last week or so, you guys are both learning junkies. Have you had any major ahas that you want to share?
Ooh.
Yeah, I'd say for me that this shift has actually, this kind of disruption that we've had has actually forced us to go back and do some things that we've probably been needing to do all along, which is communicate more, get more on a heartfelt level with people, be more concerned about our neighbor and our customers and our clients and our agents. So I think to me, it's just the realization that gradually and then suddenly could happen in anybody's life. And so I know coming out of this, I'm going to preach even more why leverage and passive income is super important to our agents. And we have one of the greatest tools to do that. So I'm going to double down on making everyone understand the importance of profit share and real estate investing.
I love that. Dana, what about you?
Yeah, honestly, I would say my biggest aha has just been leaders get surprised, and that's okay. It's what are you going to do about it? And so I think for all of us, this was a surprise. Hopefully, I'm not the only one that it was a surprise for. And it's just what are we going to do about it? And, a leader's voice should be a different voice. And as an agent, our clients and the industry, they see us as leaders. And so even if you might think that you are not a leader because you don't lead a team or you don't lead a market center or you don't lead a region or whatever that is, but if you're an agent, you still lead your community and your clients. And when stuff like this happens, we are who they look to. And so our voice needs to be different than the other voices around us. So just, being really clear on what message you're delivering has probably been my biggest aha over the last few days.
That's fantastic. One of the things that I just heard you say is, what are you going to do about it? Right? Yeah. And that comes down to time. How are you spending your time? So leveraging time is, I think, a huge topic that we can really dig deep on. What else are you doing with your time? What are you making a priority right now?
We've had a bazillion Zooms. We have definitely used technology. I think for me, I'm spending most of my time pointing people back to the good in this situation, the hope in it, because I think as leaders, you're always going to need to point people to the hope. Also, reminding them that you're getting a little bit of time back here and what are the things you should be spending that time with and how to communicate. So as a leader, we're doing a lot of Zoom calls. I'm actually still having recruiting appointments and things like that. So, any opportunity to talk to someone, communicate with someone, we're using our time to do that right now.
Yeah, I would say same thing. And then as an agent, just really using your time to focus on bringing value anywhere that you can. I actually heard Jason Abrams shared something with us earlier today that I thought was genius that I think he got from Josh Team. So I want to give proper credit to wherever it's due. But he said, now is a good time to take market share, but it's a great time to take mind share. And I wrote that down as soon as he said that, because I thought that is how we can bring value to people. So use the time to build deeper relationships with your clients. Really spend time knowing what they like and what they love. And maybe you need to do some Facebook stalking or, whatever after you're calling and getting deep in with your people, but just go deep with them and use your time that way when it comes to your clients and your database.
Yeah. Earlier I heard a statistic that first of all, people are answering the phone more than they were before. So now's a great time to reach out and call people. And then also in the last 48 hours, our social media usage has gone up 48%. So it's a great time if you're thinking about reaching out to people through the social media. It's a great time to do that also.
Jay and I were having a conversation with Monica Reynolds earlier this week, and she said that everybody's at home right now. There is no excuse not to be making these phone calls to your database because people are picking up the phone. So It's a great opportunity to build relationships. I think in the last session we heard Wendy Papazan say that she's been talking to people that she hasn't talked to in years just because she's picking up the phone and calling them or texting them, and it's reigniting new relationships, right?
One thing I heard her one thing that I thought of when I heard Wendy say that was, sometimes as agents, if it's been a few years since, and we're all guilty of that, since maybe you've called somebody in your database and then you don't want to because you're like, wait a minute, what am I going to say? Hey, sorry, I haven't called you in the last 3 years, but just wanted to, check in. This is the perfect time to be able to do that, just like Wendy said, because you really are coming from the heart and you're checking on them. And even if you haven't called them in the last 2 or 3 years, who cares? They're not going to care. They are going to remember that you called to check on them, make sure they were okay and see if they need anything.
Yes, absolutely. And that actually reminds me of a story that Linda told me about small business owners and reaching out and developing relationships with small business owners, specifically around shift, right? Linda, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably what wakes me up in the morning is thinking about restaurants and service people that honestly, they really got disrupted. I've been on the ground talking to most of our agents. They're still doing a lot of business. We're not seeing a lot of our agents go, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, there's no more business. But I'm going to tell you, when you realize and you drive our restaurants and there's nobody in the parking lot, my heart goes out to small business owners. And we have such a gift of the shift. And I remember this from the shift in 08, 09. And what gave me the idea is one of our clients actually called us, and we just had one recently call us the other day too. But he called and said, "Hey, I just started a new business. What are you guys doing? I've never lived through something like this. What would you recommend me to do?" And so the ability to hand him a shift book, or whether you did a shift, Facebook group with small business owners, anything you can do to fill in this gap with people who are hurting right now. We have so many tools at Keller Williams to make us valid. You won't even have to have the conversation of real estate to come up, because when you give to people, it creates beholdenness, and you will get something in return somewhere down the line. But I think about all the people, because Jim and I owned a small business before we did Keller Williams. We had nobody to turn to when something like this happened. So there's so many great things we could do with all the tools that we've been given from Keller Williams. So I would just say, pull that shift book out, think about who in your community you could help. I'm learning how to do takeout better because I love restaurants, and nobody will let me sit down in there. So, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, it's a paradigm shift. We have to learn to take out food, not go sit down. And so I think the small business people, and we had a restaurant owner call us the other day, and he had the intelligence to call his banker immediately. And that's the other thing. If you do have overheads, or you have small business people that they've got overheads and yet they all of a sudden don't have the business they had last week, you calling to say, "Hey, I heard a story about a restaurant owner who called the bank and said, 'Hey, I just want to know, can you guys help me out any?'" Just even giving those guys those kind of tips, they may not be thinking that their landlords or their banks may have some kind of system in place. So he called his bank. The bank let his mortgage go for 2 months right now to see where it goes. They've also put some other payments at the end of his note. So those are the kind of things that small business owners, they don't know, and they don't have anybody helping them, and it'd be a great opportunity. I always found the best people to refer to me were business owners, because they get that.
Linda, I haven't even got to tell you this, but this is a really quick story, if it's okay that I share this. So I took the advice of Gary, and as an OP, called one of the landlords of one of my market centers yesterday morning and just said, "Hey, this is, obviously we're all feeling this, and I just want to be able to discuss what options are. Closings are getting pushed back, all those type things." And so throughout the conversation, at the end, he said, "I just want to say thanks for calling me and for being open and honest and sharing that. I'm not ultimately the one who can make the decision." He's kind of the representative for the landlord. But he said, "I will tell you that I'm dealing with this personally. My wife is a dentist, and she opened her own practice just 2.5 years ago. And he said she has 3 employees at the front and 3 dental hygienists also. And he said, this is the first business we've ever owned, and we're really struggling." And so literally yesterday afternoon, I went and mailed them a copy of the shift book with a nice note with it.
Yeah.
Because I just thought when we say we wrote the book on how to deal with a shift, literally we wrote the book on shift. So it's like, just thinking about being intentional with some of these small businesses. That's how we're going to be able to build the mindset, maybe not take the market share right now, but later will be. But right now, the mindset of people, just by bringing value.
Yeah.
You're demonstrating value. You're demonstrating the power of value, right? And that has long-lasting impacts when you get down the road. One of the things that, Linda, you said that made me think, when you start to have these conversations, what you're really doing is building community. Both on a social perspective and an online perspective, right? So I think so many of us are people. We love people. We like to be around people. We want to be face to face. And the times that we're facing right now, that's not really possible. So creating new opportunities for people to connect over community is incredibly important, which I think leads us directly into what we wanted to talk about next, which was leveraging technology. So what are you guys doing from a tech perspective to build communities within your personal lives, within your businesses, for your people?
I'll go first, Linda, if that's all right with you. So Linda and I just had a great conversation with an agent in KW, Nikki Klein. She's awesome. Everyone should follow her. She is like the Facebook group's master, in my opinion. She even started a Facebook group yesterday. I thought, man, of course she would think of this. She started one that is how to how to start and build a Facebook group during this time. So she's great at that. But you're exactly right. I really believe that people, when they can't be face to face with people, they pour into and lean on their social groups and the groups that they're a part of. So even, for example, yesterday, I attended a market center happy hour on Zoom at 5 p.m. yesterday, and there were like 40 something agents on there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I thought, man, this is so cool. And everybody was at home, and some people had on like their jammies and, you know, whatever, but everybody was just having their happy hour and talking about, you know, what's going on in the market and what they were experiencing, and sharing with each other. And I just thought that was really cool, and things that maybe we don't think of or we take advantage when we're busy every single day out and about, when we're at the office, when we're not, you know, quarantined to the house. So the Facebook groups, in my opinion, oh my gosh, there is so much power and value in those Facebook groups.
Yeah. And like Nikki said, when we interviewed her for our podcast, she said, you know, you're going to learn so much from that community of what's happening on the ground level. And sometimes when you get far removed from that stuff, you don't really know. They'll ask you questions, and whatever's on their mind will come out on those Facebook groups. And there's a lot of people. I know Dana and I worked for 2 years to even think about putting our podcast together. Dana and I, you do a podcast. We did actually get it done before, and we've been doing it for about a year now. But there's probably people listening to this that they've thought about doing a podcast or a Facebook group or some type of social media. Now's the time to do it because people are home, their usage is up, and it's a great opportunity to connect with people. So whatever's your favorite way to do it, that's what I would say is go for that. Go for, if you want to do podcasts, do a podcast. If you want to do Facebook groups, you know, Instagram, whatever is your jam. And who do you want to be a hero to? Because I think if you talk about things that you're passionate about, and you're excited about, that passion is going to come through, and people are going to know that authenticity is there. And, you know, one of the first things they say to do in a crisis is to don't focus on you, but put your focus outward. This is a great way to do that through social media right now, or Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, whatever. I was on an office meeting today, which I think is a brilliant idea. And he invited the whole board of realtors to be on it. And he did a Zoom, and I was his guest speaker. And so I'm telling you, we're thinking of ideas and things that we wouldn't have thought of 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago.
So thinking back to the last shift, technology's come a long way since then. So what are some of the key differences? I know I can think of a few, but what really stands out to you, and what's different about this time? What are the opportunities that we have in front of us now?
I think education is one. I mean, the ability for us to do something like we're doing right now, I don't remember us being able to do this in 8 or 9. I don't think so anyway. So number one, right now, just the amount of education. I know you guys are getting record numbers. Watch these classes, these live classes. And I'm going to tell you, there's so many real estate agents and companies right now that their only opportunity was education was to get in a meeting room. Well, that's not an option today. That stopped last week. So I would say one is the education opportunities that we have, and definitely social media. Dana, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. And, you know, just thinking back since the last shift in 08, 09, touching your database now as an agent to me is so much easier than it was then. The one thing I would say too right now that we're doing at a super high level that everybody should be doing is getting all your people set up on their neighborhood search if you haven't already. I mean, that to me is just a total no-brainer. There is nothing anybody likes to do better as a homeowner than see what's going on in their own neighborhood that they live in.
Oh, that reminds me, today Press was doing a Zoom call with his task force, and I can't remember who said it, but somebody said that the number one Google search right now is, should I buy a house? Wow. I would do videos like crazy about why you should buy a house right now.
Yeah, man, that's a great idea.
That's incredible. And Dana, I think you're using command campaigns, right, to put out Facebook ads?
Yeah, and you know, our regional technology director Shannon today did a Zoom for agents in the region, and there were 87 agents on, and we didn't give like a whole lot of notice for this either, walking people through how to make an ad, a campaign Facebook ad. And it was insane just going on and seeing people who, I mean, like I've been getting text all afternoon of people doing it for the first time because they're generating a lot of leads for, I mean, I think the cheapest one she showed on there was like $1.16. But
Amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah. I mean,
And they
it's
wouldn't have done that 4 weeks ago. They
no.
were too busy.
Yeah, and the fact that you can target your database with your ads, I mean, that's an incredible feature. There's some real power behind that. And for anyone watching who has not dived in yet and you needed a little extra bump, you need that help, answers.kw.com will give you the help that you need. We got you covered here in KWU.
That's
The other
awesome.
thing I would add too, though, is designs. If people
Yes.
aren't getting into designs and playing with designs, I mean, honestly, I can't tell you how many hours I've spent in Canva over the years at trying to make something look real estate related, but now it's like they already look that way and they're awesome and they're sharp. And so when you're competing with other things like that, that's designs is I would say, get in and play with designs. The listing presentation, the buyer consult I mean, they are sharp as sharp gets, in my opinion. I'm pretty OCD about that stuff too. And I think they're awesome.
Incredible tips to both of you. And I know that we're winding down on time. So one last thought from each of you.
I would say probably on leverage through people. Having gone through a shift before, two things I would say. Number one, do more with less. In other words, ask your people to do more. If you've got buyers and you were about to hire a runner, ask your buyer agents to deliver things or drop off things or whatever you need to do. Expect more because your people want to be a part of the solution. And then the second thing I would say is you're already paying for their hands and you can have their mind for free. Ask for great solutions. We as leaders sometimes think we have to go into every situation with all the answers. And what I've learned in my 30-something years in this business is, no, what I have to have is great questions and make sure I have great people. And if I have great people and I have the right questions, they'll go solve any issue that we're ever up against.
Wonderful thoughts, Linda. Dana, one last thought from you.
I would say think about all those things that you always say that if you had time, you would love to do those things. Make a list of those things, and
Yes.
now is the time. So figure out what can you leverage right now and just have a clear path on what those things are. Because I know all of us can think of the things that we probably, we used to say like with the desk drawer of things, of ideas that if you had time to implement, you would. And now you may have a little bit more time. So leverage that and see what those things may be that you can do that would make the biggest difference in your business right now today.
Awesome. Ladies, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. KW, again, my name is Meredith Maples. Thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned for the next round.